If you are feeling chronically fatigued or blah, it might be related to your adrenal glands. So today I'm going to talk about how you can know if it is related to your adrenal glands and how we can treat it effectively.
You're watching the Dr. Jake podcast.
I'm an naturopathic medical doctor and integrative physician in Salt Lake City, Utah. On this channel, I share with you how you can heal your body down to the root and get your energy back without harmful drugs or surgery. I recently filmed a podcast with my co-host, Teresa Marie, in which we talked about adrenal fatigue. Make sure to stick around till the end because we're going to talk about some common treatments that you can do to treat this condition. Yeah, so adrenal glands are these little almond-like little substance on top of your kidneys. And they are small, but they do so much throughout the body. They are what makes many different hormones. And the most important ones are cortisol, DHEA. It does make aldosterone, and it makes estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. So if you mess with the adrenal glands, you're going to mess with the little messengers that go throughout our body and make our body work. It's going to really make your body not function efficiently if you have an issue with that specific area of your body.
So if somebody is having a problem with their adrenals and the adrenals are getting fatigued, what might they be feeling? What are some of the spectrum of symptoms they might be going through?
So some of the symptoms that they might be experiencing when they do have adrenal fatigue is many times they might feel tired throughout the day, or they might have a lot of difficulty waking up in the morning because we're supposed to make a lot of cortisol in the morning. But if you're not making that big boost in the morning, you're probably going to have a little bit of adrenal fatigue there. If you have a really big drop in your energy in the afternoon, if you have a lot of difficulty falling asleep at night, or you're starting to get something called like your second wind at night, that's causing a total flip-flop of what your cortisol is supposed to be doing. So you have something called a circadian rhythm, and supposed to make a lot of cortisol in the morning, and it waxes and wanes throughout the day, and then it's supposed to decrease at night. But if you are having a lot of difficulty waking up in the morning, and then you are having a lot of difficulty going to sleep at night, pretty big indicator that you probably do have a little bit of adrenal fatigue going on. It can be related to that you have a really hard salt cravings or sweet cravings. You could have this like wired but tired sensation. It's like, well, you feel like anxious all the time, but you're tired all the time. So it's a weird sensation that you can have. So that's just a quick rundown. There's so many other symptoms that could be related to that, but those are the quick ones so you get an understanding there of what adrenal fatigue is.
Now, does this just happen overnight? Is this like you feel good one day and the next day all of a sudden you've got adrenal fatigue? What is that progress? What might that look like?
Definitely not something that comes overnight. It's a gradual process, and usually it's caused by someone that's chronically stressed for a long period of time or had a really stressful event for a couple of weeks, can really tax the adrenal glands. But usually it's like you're under a lot of stress for a couple months or so, and then you could start going into the different stages of adrenal fatigue. Or you could be like working out a ton and really taxing yourself, and that could lead to adrenal fatigue also. So there's several different causes that could be causing that adrenal fatigue.
And I know that there are a lot of root causes, and that's one of the main focuses we wanted to talk about on this podcast. Are what is causing this problem? So you're talking a little bit about stress that plays a role. You're talking about exercise. You can dig into that a little bit more, or what are some other possible causes for adrenal fatigue?
So usually what I see here is, okay, everyone has stress in their life, okay? But what it is are you running away from the bear all the time? So what I mean by that is you're always in fight or flight mode. You see the bear and you get freaked out and you're running away. But if you are living your life always in that freak out mode, and you always are feeling like you have to get a ton done, or you're always hyped up or jazzed up all the time, and really you're always stressed at work, and then you're stressed at when you get home, and then you're always on the go, and never give yourself some time for yourself, that's when you are at risk for getting adrenal fatigue. Or you're one of those people that are running marathons all the time. It might feel good. You might get that endorphin look, and it might be healthy for a lot of different areas. But over time, if you keep on exercising too hard for your body, you need to pay attention to it, is that you will lead to adrenal fatigue over time. It usually takes a couple of years or so for that to happen. But if you continue to do it, you're going to lead to adrenal fatigue and go through those stages and lead to it. So the big thing that causes this issue is those stressors that are coming around from our environment, psychological stress, or physical stress that is going to cause taxation on our adrenal glands, because what our adrenal glands do is makes our stress hormone, which is cortisol. So if you're producing way too much of it, your body's going to be like, hey, I can't really keep on doing this anymore. And it stops making it. And that's why we call it adrenal fatigue, because there's that decreased production of cortisol that happens, or an imbalance of your cortisol that happens when you're chronically stressed.
So when somebody comes into your office and they're struggling with fatigue, you've done some tests, you've identified that they indeed do have adrenal fatigue. What's the hope for them? How do you treat them so that they can actually heal their adrenals and actually be able to start feeling good again?
So there's a lot of hope with helping with adrenal fatigue. It's something that definitely can be healed. It takes time, but I've never had someone that hasn't been able to heal from their adrenal fatigue. We need to work on obviously treating the real true cause behind it, like the chronic stress or too much physical activity or not sleeping very well. We need to work on that piece and help calm the brain down. We also need to find out, okay, what are the stages of adrenal fatigue? What stage are you in? Are you in stage 1, 2, or 3? So stage 1 is normal. The bear jumps out of the forest, you run away, you get hyped up, you produce that cortisol, and then it decreases. Totally normal. Stage 2 is when you're always running away from the bear, so to speak, and you're always producing way too much cortisol. And that's that wired but tired type of person. And then we have stage 3, when you're in that stage 2 for too long, then your adrenal glands decide they're not going to make cortisol anytime throughout the day. They're not going to make it morning, afternoon, evening, or nighttime. Your cortisol is just way trash. And that's the moment that you just feel kind of depressed and blah, and you just really don't feel like doing anything throughout the day, and you feel like extremely exhausted. That's when you're getting into stage 3 adrenal fatigue. So each individual area affects how we treat it. So like a stage 2 adrenal fatigue, many of these people are making way too much cortisol, or they're in a place that they're making too little in the morning and way too much at nighttime. So we need to prescribe some treatments to help decrease the cortisol at night. I like to use a supplement called Calm CP. It's a really great supplement I do to calm that cortisol production at night if I do feel like they have that. And also the diurnal cortisol test that I did shows that they're producing way too much cortisol. I'm going to give a Calm CP. I'm also going to give several different supplements and nutrients to help calm the brain down. Like I'm going to give a specialized magnesium, like magnesium taurate, that helps cross the blood-brain barrier really readily and increase GABA production in the brain, which is what our body naturally makes to calm our brain down. So when we run away from the bear, that's the main thing we do when we calm our brain down and take away that cortisol and that epinephrine that is made. So we like to do that at nighttime. And then usually, depending if they're producing way too much or they're making too little at certain times of the day, let's say they're making too little in the morning, we like to give a little boost there. So I like to give glycyrrhiza, ginseng, ashwagandha. Maybe I'm going to give an adrenal gland extract to give that boost, depending on how low their cortisol is and how deficient they are cortisol at that time of day. And if they're low in the afternoon, I'm going to prescribe that too. But let's say they're just pumping out tons of cortisol all the time. I'm going to give something that really will calm the cortisol production down. And a good one that's going to be doing that is ashwagandha or magnolia. These are a couple herbs that really will help calm your brain down, calm that cortisol production that is happening. So let's say you're in stage 3. This is the stage where you're just way too little cortisol all the time. So morning, afternoon, and evening time. So what I do is I'm going to become a little bit more aggressive. I'm going to give a lot of herbs that are very stimulatory. So I'm going to be giving like ginseng and rhodiola and glycyrrhiza. I'm also going to be giving an adrenal extract to really boost that cortisol production because you're not producing enough. And if people are just deficient enough in this situation, sometimes I do what's called a physiological dose or low dose hydrocortisone, in which I prescribe it how your body naturally makes it. And it's not going to suppress your immune system at all. I know some of you hear cortisone, you're like, oh man, I don't want to take that. It's going to suppress my immune system. And that's not good at all. But what we do is we prescribe it in a way that it is in the physiological dosing and doesn't suppress any of your cortisol production. And sometimes when people are really sick in this way, we have to give a little bit of that. And then we give a little bit of the adrenal gland extract and herbs. Then we take away the adrenal gland extract and give some herbs there to really balance, get those adrenal glands working again.
For somebody who's doing one of these treatments, is this something that how long does it typically take before they no longer need these supplements to be able to have a healthy cortisol balance in their body?
So this all depends on how long they have been dealing with this. If people are in stage 3, this usually takes at least 6 to 12 months to really get people under control. Now, if they just barely started it just a couple months ago, usually I'm going to get it under control within a month or so. If they've been doing it for like a year or so, it's going to probably take 2 or 3 months, depending. So it just depends on the severity and how long they have been dealing with it. But sometimes I notice that some people have been dealing with it a long time and they get over it within a month. And sometimes people have just barely started their adrenal fatigue and they're taking a year or two to really get over it. So it is, bodies are all a little bit different, but those are the generalities there.
As somebody who has dealt with, some of these symptoms of adrenal fatigue, I can definitely one thing say for sure is drinking coffee as much. I love coffee, but it certainly is prolonging my healing because I'm continuing. I cut it down, and that's helpful. But because I still drink it, I definitely notice a correlation where it's like I haven't needed to take my adrenal supplements as often, but I still find days where it's like, oh, I'm having a hard day. My adrenals aren't happy with me today. So I'll have to take those supplements. And I know I'm probably past the mark where I should start not even needing it at all, but because I'm still drinking that coffee. So I'm really excited because I know that you just recently put out or finally came out with your Terra Brew, which I've been eagerly waiting for because I want to be able to start substituting my coffee in the morning for this drink. It tastes good. On another episode, I did a taste test. This was all when it was still in the trial and he hadn't yet come out with it to the public. And it really was tasty and I felt so good on it. So we're going to make sure and put a link in the podcast notes. And if you're watching this on YouTube, put a link in the description box so that you can try it as well. Because if you are dealing with any type of adrenal fatigue, I know for me, this is the game changer in so many ways.
If you want to learn more about how to treat this chronic fatigue syndrome, make sure to click to the right because we have a lot of great videos there.